So the real danger of ransomware and how to deal with it. So if anyone's familiar with me, my name is Edgar Zakariev, and I run the marketing and business development here at Pulseway. And I work with a lot of MSPs and internal ITs about their practice towards safe practice toward dealing with ransomware. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Well, let's have a quick look at the agenda. Again, feel free to send any questions you have. We're going to look at the current threat landscape. What does it currently look like? What's the danger? The damage ransomware can do. What kind of damage can it do to you and to your business? How ransomware works, how ransomware gets in. So it'll help us to understand how we can prevent it if we know how it's getting in and the danger it can cause. And then we'll get into how to prevent ransomware and how to deal with ransomware as a best practice. So to give you a quick idea on the threat at the moment, so there's been 304 million of attempted ransomware attacks in just the first half of 2021. That's 304 million attacks. And that number is steadily increasing. That's 151% year-on-year increase from last year. And again, that's because it's a very profitable business. Now, if we look at the numbers again, we have 78 million number of attempted ransomware attacks in just June alone. So that number is slowly increasing. That's a 400%, almost a 400% year-on-year increase in ransomware attacks. And the question is, why the rise right now? Well, because people pay up, so it's profitable. They can't function without accessing their data. Cost of remediation often more than the ransom. Attackers increasingly stealing data and reputation threat. So it's a lucrative business. That's where we're seeing a huge rise. More and more businesses are setting up their shops just for ransom, and we'll go over that in a little bit. Again, it's a very lucrative business. It's on the rise. We've seen a huge increase over the last year in attacks amongst the industry, and that number is only going to go up. Again, the more profitable an industry is, the more companies do get set up. And it's the same. Ransomware is very similar to any other organization. They have employees, health benefits, paychecks, verticals they target. So you'd be surprised at how exactly well organized these companies are. And the conditions for ransomware are just perfect right now, right? So we got the dark web, untraceable, where you can buy credentials, you can buy user information, you can buy data, you can buy ransomware tools. So there's companies that specialize in either, hey, we sell ransomware software that you can buy from us to use against them. You can buy lists from another company. So again, like any other organizations, they specialize in a specific vertical. There's very few organizations that do everything at once. They tend to leverage other organizations for data and for tools to execute software, like we buy software right now. And cryptocurrency, although there's a lot of benefits in cryptocurrency, it also, some of the cryptocurrency makes it hard to trace. So unlike the olden days where you needed to transfer money to a bank, and that could be traced, that problem goes away with cryptocurrency. So it's easier than ever and more profitable than ever for companies to steal money and install ransomware on your machines. So again, it's a booming market, and we need to be cautious of it because that number is only going to increase. So there's definitely money in this, right? So what do we mean that it is like a business? So this is just an ad from a job on the dark web. It's an example of an ad. So we see looking for a job, hiring a goal-oriented cyber criminal, $63,000 a month. That's very profitable and very enticing. So the dark overlord is hiring. Specifically, it's hiring software designers and system engineers with at least 10 years of experience to bring innovative approach to operations and think outside the box. It looks like any other job posting and very profitable for the person that takes it. So it does take in a lot of highly skilled developers to build this ransom software. So an annual salary of $760K, payable after 90-day probation period, naturally. like again, 90-day probation period, like any other company, with an expected increase to 1 million after 2 years, contingent upon positive performance reviews, of course. And this is a real job posting for a real organization that specializes in building ransomware software. They're hiring skilled developers to build their platform to exploit more vulnerabilities. So with that in mind, we understand that it's a profitable market, that people are actively hiring, and these organizations are acting as real-life organizations with benefits, days off, paid maternity leave, everything else is included in those companies, with much higher salary for them to build and target specific industries and verticals. And like any other business, they tend to focus. You have organizations that focus on exploiting large companies. That's the ones that make the news. But a lot of the attacks happen on small companies. And there's a lot of ransomware companies that specialize in attacking small companies. It's easier to infiltrate. It's quicker to get money. It's just an easier job. And a specific vertical that could focus on healthcare or the finance institutions. So they break down that way as well. So they know the layout of the company. They know the employee setup. So they know who to get into first, so they can penetrate that company. So how does ransomware get in? So there's typically two ways. So there's an email-based infection, which is the most popular attack, email with a malicious attachment. And that could be done a couple of ways. I can either steal your private user, so I can find whoever works in finance, for example, head of finance. I'll find them on LinkedIn. I'll find their personal address. Their personal address might have leaked in terms of their password. They'll get access to their personal address, and sometimes they use the same password on their business accounts. People tend to reuse the same passwords. They'll use that login to send an email to their staff, so they'll do research. Okay, who reports in the finance department? All right, who else do we want to get access to? Let's find the names. And let's build these tailored emails to send out with these attachments. Now, you get an email from someone from finance saying, hey, we're reviewing your taxes, so we're looking to give you an increase. Can you look at this document and sign the document? They download the document. You're infecting that person, and that person then actively infecting other people. So again, very targeted. It's not one for all kind of shape. People are actually building out templates and using that information in a very smart way. So email, malicious attachment, you download it, there's a ransomware payload, encryption key infrastructure, and files become inaccessible. Web-based infection, user clicks a link, there's malicious infrastructure, ransomware payload, encryption key infrastructure, and files are inaccessible. The end goal is for the files to be inaccessible. And this is more common now. Sometimes people used to use the same attack to use your machines to mine Bitcoin or to just steal and monitor your data. So they can sell that. So there's a couple of things they can do with that. So how does ransomware get in then? Phishing attacks, becoming more targeted, as we discussed, can also use victim email accounts to spread the infection. So all you need is access to one email. You'll tend to find a decision maker or somebody that's vulnerable. You get into one account, you tailor your emails, and you pass it right throughout the organization. All of a sudden, all your machines are infected. Remote desktop protocol, the RDP vulnerabilities, data brute force attacks, or credential purchase from the dark web. Once successful, they can deploy malware, including ransomware, or quicker access. And software vulnerabilities. So there's a lot of software on a user's desktop that we forget to keep up to date. And these organizations, these vendors, tend to push the updates pretty frequently. But as we know, a lot of our users always delay the update. You know, I'll snooze it for 24 hours. I'll snooze it for another 24 hours, and they might never get to it. So proactively patching that would resolve those vulnerabilities in that software. And vulnerabilities are discovered by these organizations on a very quick basis because they have a full staff, maybe 20, 30 developers looking for vulnerabilities in popular software and specific versions of that software. So those are the three common ways of ransomware getting in. And it's a scare tactic, right? Your computer has been infected with a virus. Click here to resolve the issue. Your computer was used to visit websites with illegal content. To unlock your computer, you must pay $100 fine. All files on your computer have been encrypted. You must pay this ransomware within 72 hours to regain access to your data. And there's normally a counter saying, oh, if you don't pay in 72 hours, that price is going to go up. And then we're also going to sell your information on the dark web. So all your private sensitive company information is going to be listed on the dark web for somebody to take advantage of and repeat the cycle, or to blackmail you. So again, it's a fear tactic. We have your private information. All your files are encrypted. You can't have access to them. And you're pretty much in trouble. So 50% of the demands are more than $50,000. Now, again, it depends on the size of your company, how much revenue you make, and it's the research this organization is going to do. It's going to check, okay, let's look at the tax returns in this company. How much money are they making? How much can we charge them for it to be feasible? And they'll probably charge you roughly 80% of your annual recurring revenue. To be reasonable, that you'll pay out without blinking and getting your information back, but it's still a heavy hit on the company. So 50% also caused by malicious emails, links, or attachments. So 50% of our attacks are just basic malicious email links that are clicked or attachments that are downloaded, that are posed as real emails. The entry is still 50% basic, so we can avoid that 50% of the attack. And 45% of victims unaware of attack for more than 24 hours. So by the time it gets across, your whole organization is encrypted. And you can get some of these statistics in the documents on your right-hand side. You can download any of them at any time and keep them for your own personal information. 40% of attacks consumed 8 man hours of work. So even if you do have some sort of strategy, it's still a resource taking exercise to resolve, to back things up and everything else. And then your information is still gone. It can be sold for other attacks. 38% of business said the attack harmed their brand or reputation. So not only is it, again, depending on your industry, what vertical you're in, it can do real damage to your organization if it goes public as well. If your company gets attacked, all the data stolen, and you're in a very sensitive industry, your brand reputation, trust will go down. People will not want to work with you because of the reputation cases. And 17% of victims were unable to recover data, even after paying ransomware. So paying the ransom fee doesn't always guarantee you the data back. It could be just deployed to get even more money. You paid out quite easily, we can potentially get more money. And not necessarily, if you pay the data, it doesn't mean they're not going to sell your data on the dark web. They might give you your data back, but they might sell it on the dark web to somebody else, try and hack you to get more money. Lightning sometimes strikes twice. So again, they know there's an easy breach. You paid them, but they'll sell this data, make some more money, and like a business, they have multiple channels of revenue. And it's quite fascinating how cybercrime overtook any other crime in the world. It's 20 times more profitable, for example, than the cocaine industry. So it's insane how much this business has grown, how profitable it got. So again, the more profitable it gets, the more big companies will want to take part in it to make some easy money. So some real examples. US City demanded 13 Bitcoin, 76K as ransom, exploited out of data and hardware software, ransom not paid, restoration cost $9 million, right? So they decided not to pay the ransomware, but all the restoration and the backlog of work cost the company a lot of money. Again, depending on the size of the company and how much data you have, if you have software that you're selling to your customers, it goes down, it can have a huge impact. US County demanded $1.2 million as ransom, User opened a malicious link, ransom not paid, but spent over $1 million rebuilding the systems. So regardless of what the situation is, whether you decide to pay the ransom or you don't, oftentimes you're advised not to pay the ransom and fuel the economy of these organizations. It's still going to end up costing you a lot of money, regardless of whether you pay the ransom or restore your infrastructure. So some examples of that. And so we understand that it's a profitable industry and how the attacks happen. And if we go back on that slide, how easy it is to get into a company. One malicious link clicked by an uneducated user who is unaware cost the organization $1 million. That's how simple it can be. So what's some of the best practice to reduce risk? Okay, so number one is to always make sure you have back up your data, system images and configurations. So make sure all your systems are backed up. Your files and folders, just disk images, everything's backed up. Test your backup and keep them offline. So it's often you want to keep 2 versions of it. You want to keep one on site on a local server and one in the cloud in a different location. And a version that's offline that's not going to be accessed by the hack. So keeping your backup is number one thing you can do to get your data back. Now, I've spoken to many organizations, who previously might not have seen the need for backup. I was talking to an MSP in Australia that it took them 2 ransomware attacks on their customer before they decided to get backup in place. So user multi-factor authentication. So simple trick is to make sure all your users have 2FA enabled, whether that's your email address or logging into sensitive company software. 2FA, whether that's through your push notifications on your phone, whether that's via email, you need a 2FA, and ideally a good password in place as well. And there's a lot of good tools for password generation for that, whether that's 1Password or anything else. Updating and patching your systems, although it can be a chore, making sure your operating systems are up to date. There's vulnerabilities in Windows. Windows pushes an update. You're making sure those systems are up to date. And third-party applications. There's a lot of applications on our system, and to make sure everything is up to date and current. A lot of these vendors are doing a great job in pushing updates very quickly, and we just need to make sure we're catching up and updating the infrastructure. That can be a tedious task, and it can be a simple task through automation. So that doesn't interrupt the user's day. And again, we can't rely on end users to update systems because we know the problem. It's always delayed. They're too busy to update currently, and that can go on for months and even years sometimes. I've seen some people with operating systems that have been updated in 2 years. Make sure your security solutions are up to date. They're using best in class. And review and exercise your incident response plan. Like, what is your response? And what do you do when, like a fire drill, what happens and what do you do when an attack happens? If you're planned towards the incident, you can respond a lot quicker. Okay, here's an example of an incident response plan, and something you can build out internally, construct a zero-day response plan. Is it ransomware? Let's analyze, validate the attack, gather the team, make sure IT staff, management, PR, legal teams are aware of the issue and ready to respond. What exactly is affected? How fast is malware spreading right now? Contain, isolate infected systems, secure backups, document log files, and check regularly. Oftentimes you can push your systems to offline mode. Investigate what type of ransomware is involved, what are the risks and recovery options for us, as an example of and you can build this out as a process of hey, something's happening, here's our response plan, so you're on the ball about this. Incident response plan. Eradicate and recover. So continuing from the last slide, wipe infected systems and restore lost data, change all the passwords. Contact law enforcement may offer guidance on how to respond on base, group, and strain involved. So you can get some insight on how you can get help with this. Oftentimes, the law enforcement is going to tell you not to pay the ransom. A lot of companies are afraid to contact because of reputational damage, so they try to keep it under wraps and just pay the ransomware. But oftentimes, they get you in more trouble later on. Post-incident activities. Follow regulatory responsibilities, verify restorations of backup, and then analyze how did the attack happen. Launch additional training if needed. Review incident response plans so you can avoid this from happening in the future. But ideally, you take some preemptive measures and do this before it actually happens. Always a worthwhile exercise. So here's an example of ransomware as a service. What you're looking here is a software that's sold in the dark web, and it's a ransomware software, like a CRM almost, right? Sold to you for a specific fee, either a percentage of the revenue you're making or a monthly subscription, like any other software. And for someone to start a ransomware business, they don't need to be that technical anymore. You just need a little capital to start. You can buy the software, you can buy the lists, you can buy the strategy, the email templates. You have all the arsenals. You import the emails into the software, you start the attack, somebody clicks, you get a notification about it, and you can also see how much money you're making from these attacks. So really, it's easier than ever to start a ransomware business. Not that I'm encouraging it, but for anyone looking to make quick money, people are getting into this because you have, number one, the software to do everything you need it to do. You don't need to build anything from scratch. And you have all the data and information you can buy from the dark web for a relatively cheap price and use that information for brute force attacks. So here's an example of a software that you can purchase a screenshot from it, how much money you've made, how many decryption keys you got, and so on. So it makes your job a lot easier as a ransomware business. I spoke briefly about this, some ready-made kits, phishing kits, right? How to hack Facebook ID using phishing attacks. Like any other company, these companies that sell software will publish blogs that people can read and buy these phishing kits. So you don't have to even come up with the idea of, how do we attack? Because you have some pre-built information, templates, and everything else. Follow-up strategy, how much money to ask. It's all built out in front of you, all the information. So again, ransomware is a business, and people are treating it as such. All you're doing, all the information is in front of you. You're copying information. You're taking the useful data. You're buying the software, and off you go. You're ready with your first attack. And that's why the rise in ransomware is so drastic, because it's so easy to get into and can be very profitable for people and organizations to get started with this. A business like any other, you can buy IDs, an example of data. You can buy employee IDs and everything else that can get scanned, that you can use that information to either do personal attacks or use that personal information to attack a business. Because if we're looking to buy an ID and information about that person, I can get access to the private information, which gives me access to their company information. Again, users tend to, and you'd be shocked at how many users use the same passwords, exact same passwords for everything. It's astonishing. Whether it's your business email, whether it's your private email, whether it's your Facebook, it's the same password. So hacking less educated users can be a real simple task. And it all stems towards education. We need to get better at our password management, our passwords we create. Now, they don't have to be as complicated as XYZ7976, but even phrase matches. So John -went - for a walk. Something easy to remember, but easy to hard to hack as well. And 2FA is a must, you know, so it's your second line of defense for them to be able to get into your email. Not only do they need to have your password, they also need to have your phone to get a push notification. So it can be easily avoided. Some of these mistakes can be easily avoided and prevent a lot of these easy ransomware attacks. Because the high statistic of ransomware attacks are all basic phishing attacks, getting through basic bugs. If you can avoid those, that's your key to avoiding a lot of the attacks. So some examples. Bulk discounts. You're buying user information, and like any other business, you'll have bulk discounts. Tiered pricing. If you buy 1,000, you get it at this price, and you get it buy it at this price, you get it at a lower price. So you're encouraged to buy more. So again, this would be a company that sells just data. They steal data. They don't necessarily use that data personally to attack, but their business model is to get data and sell the data. You know, quality guaranteed. We check all cards before selling. Customer service, our 100% response rate on our customer service. So when you buy data from us, we'll be very responsive and help you out. Qualified support with extensive experience. So like not only these companies, you know, doing what they're doing, but they also have a support team to help other companies who are buying this data. And again, we're going back a business like any other, with a support team, with a software they're selling, with finance, with benefits and paychecks and everything else. MFA Authentication, again, simple task, regardless of the platform you're using, whether it's your Gmail, whether it's your finance software, is to encourage and force two-factor authentication on users. It can be a pain in the ass, it can take you an extra 2 seconds to log in, but overall it's worth it for the security aspect of your company, and eliminates a lot of problems if you have 2FA and a good password here. As an example of the Pulseway 2FA we have in our platform that we mandate or try to mandate for all of our customers as a critical element to it. Patching, you know, we spoke about software vulnerabilities, whether that's your operating system. There was recent vulnerability in Windows a couple of weeks ago. They released a patch pretty quickly. And unless you didn't update your Windows operating system, you're still vulnerable to that exploit. So patching can be a cumbersome task. So patching either your Windows operating systems or your third-party applications. You might have, you know, 40 applications across your business that are being used by your staff. Maybe 400 machines are being used, or you have 10 clients with 150 different variants of applications over 6 different sites. And it used to be very cumbersome to update it, you know. Number one, you can't rely on the user, as we understand that. So you occasionally see people having to remote in and to update things. But you can really automate that, and you can set up good patch policies with a patch management tool like Pulseway, for example, or any other tool that does third-party applications or OS operating system. You set a schedule. Again, with Windows, you'll have a second week, of Tuesday, second week of the month. When is the Windows update? You normally give it a day or two to expedite or to test itself, and then you'll run an update on that Thursday or something across all the Windows machines at a time that's convenient with a restore point, and all those systems get automatically patched, and if they miss a patch, they update the next day. So again, that's taken off your plate. And third-party applications, again, you get hundreds of different variants of applications, and those get updated frequently. Some get updated specific day, twice a week, once a month. So it's with a third-party application, what we'd recommend is you run a check every day for your third-party applications to make sure there's an update. If there's an update, install the update. And it does it in the background. It doesn't necessarily require a reboot or anything. It's just going to force an update, install that update for the application, and all your users are up to date. And it's all an automatic process and a schedule. It can be very simple and avoids a lot of hassle down the line. 14th of March, Microsoft released. So why should you patch? We kind of covered this. Microsoft, an example of what I'm talking about here, on the 14th of March in 2017, Microsoft released Security Bulletin MS-170110, patching vulnerability in Windows SMB. On the 14th of April, shadow brokers released a set of exploits exploiting the vulnerability. Microsoft highlights SMB flaw. 12th of May, and again, it takes a little bit of time to exploit that vulnerability. So it's not like we need to update it, exactly as soon as it comes out, but it needs to be pretty urgently within that period, within that week. WannaCry attacks begin in Asia using a shadow broker's exploit within 24 hours, 230,000 computers in 150 countries infected. Victims either unpatched or running unsupported Windows versions. Again, a lot of those exploits are pretty easy to attack, and you have access to all these machines. And the problem can be if they get access to a specific machine that's unpatched, they'll have access to the rest of your organization or can exploit the rest of your organization as well. All they need is access to one person. NHS in the UK, 70,000 devices impacted, operations cancelled, hospitals closed. And actually recently in Ireland, where I was born, there was an attack on our health organization. They were running a lot of out-of-date operating systems that were easy and vulnerable to attack. So again, these criminals, they don't care if you're a nonprofit, they don't care if you're a charity, they don't care if you're a health organization helping the sick. They have no morals in terms of that. They'll attack any easy target that has cash to spend. So again, there's no emotion involved in that. You see, from charities to anything else getting exploited out of this. So nobody can assure themselves that they're safe. Email credentials for sale. Had to access 773 million stolen email credentials. And again, if a software gets hacked, you see quite often some examples. I think Zoom was hacked, Equifax, all that credentials, your emails and your passwords. I go straight to the dark web for bulk sales. You buy the list, you run brute force attacks on all these credentials to see if they're using the same password. So even if you buy these 700 million stolen email credentials, you can run an exercise to check the passwords relatively quick with software that's available for sale, software you can buy. So once, and again, like I said, sometimes it can't be necessarily your phone that your password gets leaked, but it can leak through a software you're using. And that information can be used. So if you don't have 2FA enabled, it's an easy attack, a brute force attack. Here's another example, typical lists. You can also get it by segment, demographic, everything else, like you're buying leads, for example. It's the same principle. If you're buying new leads for your company, if you're partnering, these leads are victims in this example. So there's a lot of credentials for sale, and you'd be surprised if you can who you can find on that list and what kind of information you can find on those lists. You can even get little samples to see exactly what data you're getting. Luckily enough, there's ways to detect that. So we have partnered with a company called DarkWeb ID for stolen credentials, where you can quickly run an exercise to check is your email on the dark web, and that information is always up to date, and it pings you normally a notification saying, hey, one of your emails was breached, your password's on the dark web. And not necessarily if your email is on the dark web, it's not going to be used immediately the second it hits the dark web, but down the line, it has potential of being used for an attack. As people buy the lists and the emails and the passwords, they'll eventually get to a specific email on that list. So again, it might take a little time, but if you do discover it, don't panic. Don't panic too urgently. Just make sure you update your passwords, your information, and everything else, and you have 2FA installed on an email address. Alerts of you when a customer employee emails and passwords are available for sale. So really with a tool like this, you can get an instant notification saying, hey, John from finance's email is on the dark web. It's for sale. Here's the preview of the password. And you can go, okay, I need to contact John to change the password. So it can really keep you up to date of the list sales and how to remove your critical information from that. So protect against breaches before they happen. And schedule regular scans to check your domains. And you can just scan the domain. So if your company domain is apple.com, you put in apple.com, he scans all the credentials containing apple.com, and it'll give you information for that. And a great way to also talk to your prospects and customers to see how cyber secure are they, to see if their organization information is on the dark web too. Another thing to get started with is something called CyberHawk threat scanning. We use it internally as well. So it scans your environment to see, are there any vulnerabilities, gives you a full detailed report of your infrastructure, of your environment, tells you where some of the vulnerabilities you need to look at, what your score is, and what else you can be doing. So a great way to get started is to run a report like that to actually analyze where are we with our cybersecurity, what are some of the vulnerabilities we need to address, and start slightly fixing those things and improving that score. And also a great way for, if you're an MSP and you're looking at a new client, so you want to know where you want to get started with to see where the potential vulnerabilities are so that you can address for your client. Some of the things, protection for the whole network, detect unusual login behavior, find personal data where it doesn't belong, blocks network attacks. So that's CyberHawk threat scanning, also available with Pulseway. And not necessarily you need all these tools, but some of them, depending on where you are as an organization, if I'm at day zero and I need to check where my organization is at in terms of security, or if I want to use it as if I'm getting new clients, or I want to see whether those clients are at this stage so I can address those concerns. Email security, so phishing attacks. Google does somewhat of a job, and Microsoft somewhat a job of filtering spam, but we still get emails that get through the system that bypass that and don't warn the user about what's going on. So email security, having a good software for email security that can prevent the phishing attacks from taking place in the first. We'll analyze what kind of email it's coming from, what is it saying exactly, and it'll flag that email. It'll give you a little warning saying, hey, warning, this is a suspicious email. So it'll do either two things. If it's 100% sure that it's an attack, it'll quarantine that email so it never reaches the user. If it finds it suspicious, it will set up a little informative employee shield information. It'll tell you, hey, this suspicious email, proceed with caution. And again, email vulnerabilities and all these ransomware companies are setting up shop for quick attacks. But patching and email security can alleviate a lot of these potential attacks. So only the specialist companies who use specialist attacks remain in terms of danger. Again, here's an example of Graphus. We use that internally at our organization for detecting and stopping phishing attacks. Quarantines emails, very efficient, and there's an AI mechanism where it actually learns as you report phishing and report false positives. Over the coming months, it learns and evolves and gets better at detecting what is a phishing attack and what's a safer attack as well. Pulseway Backup, powered by Unitrends, disaster recovery, business continuity solutions. So what's interesting about Unitrends and where we partner with them is their approach to ransomware in general. It has software that detects suspicious encryption. So it's stored in hardened, dedicated hardware appliances for immediate recovery. So you have an appliance that you can disconnect at any time that's on-site and easier to restore. So even if you do have a hack, you have a cloud version and an on-site appliance. with some protection on it. So if your files do get encrypted, you can run a disaster recovery from an on-site solution within a couple of hours, because there's not a lot of bandwidth like downloading from the cloud. So it's always good to have a couple of copies. And another great thing what I like about Unitrends and Pulseway Backup by Unitrends is that its detection of ransomware and file encryption and a lot of changes in the files. It can stop some of the prevention of that. User training, again, we got our base email. We stop some phishing email attacks. We patch all of our systems. But in case something does go through the weeds and there's an email that slips by somehow, maybe on their personal email address, right? Maybe we can prevent it on their business email address. We can't necessarily prevent it on their personal address. And sometimes we can't expect them to not have the same password, although we can teach them about it. So something like Bullphish ID, which is security awareness training, what it does is it sends out phishing attacks and training exercises to your staff automatically to give you first insight. Hey, we just sent 200 phishing templates to see how many people will click on this and enter their credentials. Here's the people that clicked and entered their credentials into this fake phishing attack email. So you can find out who potential weaknesses could be in your organization and educate them on best practices. And it's something I'd recommend, and we tend to do once a month at our company, is for all the new staff that join. We run a monthly simulation and training exercises, so everyone is always up to date on new and potential attacks people are using. So everyone's kind of aware of what they should be looking out for, what not to click, where not to enter your information, what to check. So increasing that user awareness is critical to your business, making sure your staff is your strongest security point, and there's no vulnerabilities in any of your users. So what Bullphish ID, Web Root Security Awareness Training, does, for example, is automatically generate these training programs for your entire staff automatically on a scheduled basis. Again, I personally recommend once a month. If you feel it's too much, you can run it once per quarter with some new tests and so on to always keep evolving and to make sure all your staff are trained, because you oftentimes have new staff that join who are maybe not familiar with this. So educated staff is good staff. To get all the protection you can, implement strong security procedures, keep patching up to date, regular look for vulnerabilities, so regular scans, educate your users. Are your credentials compromised? Secure your email traffic, monitor your system for suspicious activity. And sometimes even you can monitor, for example, Active Directory or a SQL server. If there's a suspicious amount of emails queued from a domain or something, you can check, okay, and you can block that. Even with a tool like just the RMM Pulseway, with that integration, you can set up a notification and automatically block that email address until you investigate. So there's a lot of things you can do, but the time is now to kind of start prioritizing building a plan. Whether it's this plan or it's a different plan, it's something you need to start thinking about. The danger isn't going away. In fact, it's going to keep increasing. More companies are going to be attacked. So if you have a feeling, hey, we're too small, or nobody knows about us, why would they attack us? Anyone's a target. And sometimes the smaller you are, the easier target it is. We just don't hear about it as frequently because it doesn't make the news, but there's far more attacks in small businesses because they're easier targets, and they don't have the infrastructure in place. But it can be easy, and you can protect your business, and it's less worry for you to think about, hey, am I going to be attacked in the future? Is this going to cost our business? It's going to put me out of a job. So it's always good to be proactive on this and start thinking about a plan, what you need to do. So there's documents there. Some basics we went over. It doesn't take a lot to get started, to have a base security in place. strong passwords and your team 2FA enabled. So your procedures are, when somebody joins, having that procedure in place, and when a new staff, somebody leaves, that procedure in place, keeping your patching up to date. You can automate that. It's nothing you have to worry about. Like, you keep your systems up to date. Regular scans for potential vulnerabilities. Run a scan once a month. Have a see if there's potential vulnerabilities. Educate your users on a regular basis about what's happening. Again, the time is now. You can automate a lot of it. Have sessions with some of the users that have failed the test, maybe have training automatically get to them. Check for credentials compromised. Did any of your credentials get on the dark web? So even though we're protected internally, we're still using other vendors occasionally for software, whether that's a CRM software, whether that's a financing software. If the company gets compromised, all the user information gets stolen. And that email and password, which often not can be the same as for your business, could be on that list. So having a check for that, whether that's occasionally or automating that to ping you if your company's domains are on the dark web, and taking action accordingly to that to make sure those passwords are changed and they're not the same. Because occasionally they can be not the same, but you just want to double check, obviously, that nobody can get access to that. So again, a protocol, on Mondays we'll do this, we'll check for stolen credentials and we'll address this. So create a little schedule for that, and just keep it on top of mind. It doesn't take up a lot of hours to do all of this. So secure email traffic and monitor suspicious system for activity. Something at Pulseway that we designed, again, it's a base cybersecurity kit that you can purchase directly from us that can alleviate a lot of this problem for you, which does include, if you have RMM already, or if you're a brand new prospect, you're looking to get something in place, 3PP, Bitdefender Security Suite, AV and EDR, email security by Graphus, security training by ID Agent, and full disaster recovery and backup by Pulseway Unified Backup. So the complete stack of what we just talked about. We're running a discount for the stack, the complete cybersecurity suite, of 30% off, limited to first 50 people. Code below if you're interested. Again, we needed to limit the offer because of some of the add-ons we're selling. So if you're interested, you can directly reach out to us through the contact form, request a demo on the left-hand side or a quote on the left-hand side, and someone will reach out to you with information about this and if it's something you're looking to invest into. So with that, we'll move on to the questions. Is it possible to get the user training? Absolutely. You can buy anything separately. We have special Pulseway pricing as well, with lower entry points. So you can buy all of that through Pulseway. You can buy one of these products or you can buy the bundle. So there's no pressure. If there's only one item missing off the stack, you can buy a specific product for that. So yes, you can buy the user training by ID Agent, or you can also buy user training by Web Root Security Awareness Training. Again, you can request a quote or a demo on the left-hand side, which will take you to that and let us contact you on that. Patch management policies. Can you share an article on how to configure this properly? Absolutely. I've mentioned before, it can be pretty straightforward. I'd recommend operating system once per month, second week of the month. Thursday, typically at 5 p.m., host the users, or in the morning before the user starts. And with the third-party applications, something you'll just create a policy to run daily and check maybe Monday to Friday, either in the morning or in the afternoon. Again, those updates don't take a lot of time. The machine doesn't normally have to get restarted, so you can run them throughout the day. But I have the third-party policy set for a daily check, especially on all the workstations. So I'm not sure if this document on best patching policies, but we certainly have some guides and just how to set up what's the right policy, at what times, how often you need to do it. but you can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn if you have questions about best policies, or at my email at Pulseway. That's Edgar Zakhariev at pulseway.com. So I'll ping it in the chat. So I'll type it in here. I'll put it in here. So that's that question about the patching. I have some more questions, so I'll try to get to them as much as possible. Where do I buy the training? You can, so if you're an existing customer, you can buy directly. If you click the quote button, it will have one of our reps reach out to you. We'll give you the pricing and all the information you need. So hit that quote button, or you can email your rep directly. You can go in through our website, through the contact form, and let us know which product you're looking to purchase. The Pulseway Backup Offering involves taking backup offline to decrease likelihood they'll be affected by ransomware. Yes, there's a lot of settings and configurations you can enable. So again, like I said, Unitrends has a really good disaster response kit in terms of its functionality. If you're interested, you can request a demo. We'll show you how that exactly works to help you recover the data quickly. Are some of the cybersecurity tools training integrated in the current Pulseway interface? Yes. So the RMM patching is all built into the Pulseway platform. Cloud backup for file and folder is all built to the same interface. Some of the integrations are built into the same interface with the AV, where you can manage AV from the same location as well. Are there any plans to set up 2FA for Pulseway to allow an email address instead of a cell phone? At the moment, we believe that the best 2FA mechanism is done through either. So we have a couple of options. That's either to push notifications, which we recommend for your Pulseway app. It's the most secure way to approve. There's many layers there. There's backup codes, and there's integrations with a couple of other 2FA. Bitdefender is integrated in terms of billing right now, and the actual integration is going to go live in September as on our roadmap. So that's a big next ticket item, is a slick integration into our interface. So you're focused on one platform only. Do we have any more questions? I appreciate all the questions, and thanks for taking the time on this. And it's a real sensitive topic. It's quite the ransomware market has grown exponentially, and we want to make sure our clients and partners in the industry are protected at all times. As Pulseway as an organization, we're doing a lot to keep our software safe for you as you're using it. We're doing tested attacks and vulnerabilities by third-party companies and by our own internal teams. So we're always testing our software to make sure the infrastructure is safe and secure for you. And again, we're investing heavily into our security aspect of the platform. So about 30% of our development goes into maintaining the security of our platform to make sure none of our partners are affected. So we partner with IDH and Bitdefender and other tools. So we have a strong partnership with direct resellers, and we have special packages and pricing that we designed for our users to fit their needs. So you're buying from one vendor and it's integrated into one place. Hopefully that answers your question, Ryan. Okay. So hopefully everyone found this useful. So sending a quick pulse check. So hopefully you found it useful. Let me know if the information was good. And if you'd like to see more deep dive into specific segments, best practices, we can run a series on that as well. We have a lot of findings. So we work with a lot of partners to understand the current environment and some of the attacks that are happening so that we can prepare our partners for potential, keep them safe. And I've mentioned before, you can reach out to me directly, either through email or add me on LinkedIn if you want to have a further conversation. I'm happy to hop on a call with anyone. And again, thank you so much for the nice turnout. I'm really glad to see we're taking the topic seriously. So feel free to contact me or have a call with me. I'm happy to chat. Once again, thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your day.